You don't have to get pretty if you stay pretty. People think it's maintenance that I do, right before I go live. No. It's when people are not looking. I have to make sure this takes effort. I kind of relate to it differently. I was telling somebody my first real experience with understanding women a little bit better was I was at a downtown shopping mall and I had to go on, I don't know what it was. It was something live they were doing with me and I had to be presentable. I didn't have time to get to my barber on the other side of town. And they had this big fancy barber place in the shopping mall. And I went in and I tried not to pass judgment. My barbers are like 65, 75 years old. They've got stuff on the walls that's older than you and I. I went in, this nice young lady, full barber's outfit, black gloves. They put something over your eyes. Can I get you some coffee, sir? And I'm like, this is kind of nice because my place is just a bunch of guys go to the barbershop. Well, half an hour later, she took off the thing and took out her phone. She's like, can I put this on my Instagram? And I looked like a 1990s R&B love singer. She gave me this beautiful mustache. It was real thin and pretty. I was like, oh, no. I couldn't be mad at her because she gave me what she thought this is going to be beautiful. But my guys know exactly, what to do. And I don't mind having the long hairs and it's kind of crunchy on the side. I mean, it's belligerent and I understand that, but.
Yeah, this is a new look. I've never seen you like this.
When was the last time we saw each other? Like actually like on the internet?
Oh gosh, it's been over a year, maybe 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I think last time I saw you just maybe had just a mustache, if I recall.
I think it was it wasn't like down and thick on the side.
No, it wasn't.
It was a little, well, because I'm doing this at home, it's not as curtailed as if my barber was still doing it.
Mm, yeah.
So let me back up. Tell them how we met. And what I'm going to do is, which one of your many social media handles do you want me to share with them?
So I've shared my Instagram. It's on there. It's at Tanae Bernard, on Instagram at Tanae Bernard Turner. And then my website is TanaeBernard.com. So you can share either one. So just a little background of how we met. Gosh, how long has it been now? 6 years, I think.
Wow.
It's been about 6 years. That went by fast. And I almost remember our first conversation. It was right after the story of my family and I living abroad went viral. And you reached out to me because I think we were in the same travel tribe, Nomadness Travel Tribe. And you reached out to say, hey, I want to help you. Anything that I can do to help you promote your presence on the internet, I'm here for it. This is what I do. This is what I can do. And I think you were one of the first ones to say, hey, start a blog. And I was like, no, don't think so. And, I appreciate the fact that you were like, not only start the blog, but let me stop and show you how to start it. Because people give you advice all the time, but they can't walk you through the process. And you literally took your time to walk me through everything that you knew about WordPress. So I still to this day appreciate that, you did take that time. So yeah,
Mom,
so 6 years. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah, I put it in there. I want everybody to follow you online because you've taken a lot of twists and turns, and we'll get to some of the more interesting bits in a minute. But it's always good to see the whole fam. Beauty treatments. What is that?
What, on my face?
Yeah, is that some kind of herbal?
It's an Aztec clay face mask. You should try it.
Well, here's the thing. I usually exfoliate.
Okay.
I usually exfoliate once every 2 or 3 days, and I use an astringent every 2 or 3 days. So I'm probably getting my face treatment done 2 to 3 times a week, depending. Once I do a deep astringent, and then when I do a deep exfoliant.
Okay.
To really get the pores clean and opened up. So here I'm going to put in the comment section as well for everybody to follow you there. And let me show everybody your other site as well. Boom, boom. Love, life, and happiness.
Yay.
Well, that hits you right in the feelings. 4 lessons I've learned watching my children grieve.
Yeah, that's part of my journey.
23 books every. Nice. You know, every now and then I'll go into some of the deeper books that have helped me find a lot of success in life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jeez, you just keep hitting me in the emotion. 7 life skills your teen needs before leaving home. Let me tell you something. When I was in college, one of the things I did is I worked as glorified hall monitor, just making sure the boys on the tier didn't get themselves into too much trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how many guys didn't even know how to wash their own underwear?
Right. So that's one of my things as a parent. I do not want my children to leave my home lacking the basic essential skills, and laundry is definitely one of them.
Oh, look at this. Look at this. She said, Tana was there when I needed a woman to talk to before I moved to the UAE.
Yeah. I think she moved probably 2 or 3 years ago, if I recall. Yep. She reached out. I believe isn't she one of your friends?
Yep, we've been forever. And here's the other one. Boom. That's the other one I want people to definitely take a look at. But yeah, it's one of those. It's one of those things where my parents, I was fortunate. I had mom, dad, parents, blah, blah, blah. They ended up getting divorced. That was a whole different issue. My dad moved around the corner. But one of the things that they talked to me about, my mother especially, she said she never wanted me to be with a woman because I needed her. Because she saw too many men that didn't have fundamental life skills, and they needed to have a woman that might not have been the best woman for him, but she basically took the role of their mother. And she said she never wanted that from me. So she made sure I could keep house at least as good as any woman I've ever been with, except maybe 1 or 2. But I keep a spotless ship.
Well, you can come over here and help me. Yeah, I totally agree. I have 2. Total we have 3 sons, and one of my biggest things is that I do want them to be able to cook and clean for themselves, do their own laundry, and not believe that it's a woman's job to do that. We don't have any generosity. Huh?
How old are the boys?
So my sons are 12 and 13, and then together there's a 16-year-old also that my husband has. So we have a 12, 13, and 16-year-old boy.
Tell them to come talk to Uncle Watt when they ride around.
I'm scared to send them to talk to you.
But here's the thing: do you believe I'll give your son any information that was not legit?
No, not at all.
But here's the thing, right? And this is where we're going to go with a lot of it. They have a dad, but at the same time, there's certain conversations that you might need an uncle to talk to you about, and this is going to get. You know what? We're not even going to do that. We're not going to. They're a little young for me right now, but you put them on to me when they start turning about 17 years old. Then you say, look, you can talk to him, but take it with a grain of salt.
I got you.
This is the Field General, BK from the Rockies. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for everybody who's been tuning in. My channel's been growing. I tell everybody I appreciate that you like the things that we talk about here. I talk about 3 things mainly. World travel, not just my life in Brazil or her life in the UAE, going back to America, but all over the world. I have friends from all over the country and world that we bring a lot of stuff together. Number 2 is I talk about money because money is amazing. I love money. Money is a great slave. I talk about investments, cryptocurrency, avoiding credit. Money has been good to me. Money is I love money, and people that don't love money are usually the ones that are slave to it instead of the other way around, but that's a different kettle of fish. And we also talk a lot about social issues, and we're going to cross some interesting bridges here because the social issues that are going on have been compounded so many different times here in the United States where you are. We met when you were living in the United Arab Emirates. Is that correct?
Correct. I was over in Abu Dhabi at the time. I was a single parent with 3 children.
Single mom, 3 kids in the UAE. That's a story that writes itself. Tell us how you came to be there and how you got back to where you are.
Oh my God, how much time do we have? Because that's
this is the internet. We got it.
We got nothing but time. So initially I was married at the time in 2013, and I was in a very toxic relationship. So my then husband and I decided, okay, we needed to give it one last go. And I figured if we moved to another country where we didn't have any outsource, influence, and, he liked to drink heavily. So I figured, hey, we moved to a country where alcohol wasn't readily available as much, then maybe we would have a good chance of surviving this marriage. or should I say entanglement, since that's the word today.
You gotta explain that to me because I'm not cool enough to quite get the reference.
Of entanglement?
Yeah.
Oh, you don't know about the Will and Jada?
So, okay, all right, stop for everybody who knows what's going on. I don't listen. Most of my time I spend talking about lifting weights, eating good food, and doing a whole bunch of other stuff. So I'm not really in pop culture like that. Explain to me what's going on, because I keep seeing the new hashtag. I'm getting entangled, and I'm like, entangled? What in the?
So about maybe 2 weeks ago, there's a artist, an R&B artist, hip hop. I'm kind of old, so I don't know exactly where he falls. Named August Alsina. Well, he went on the show The Breakfast Club, and told the world that he had a relationship with Jada Pinkett Smith. And so initially, Jada's camp came out and said, no, that never happened. I don't know what he's talking about.
Wait, pause. So just so I get the first section of the story right, her side piece went on national television.
Broke the code.
And broke the code. Well, first, what I have to ask is, do she and her husband have a non-traditional relationship? I've been in open relationships and polygamous relationships and things like that. Not the illegal kind, but you know what I mean. Do they have a relationship that allows that? Is that something that they had said, this is what we do?
Okay, so I don't know them personally, but from what I understand, that they have said that they have an open relationship. But here's the catch. This young man at the time was 23 years old and was a friend of Jaden.
Oh, come on. You're breaking all kinds of rules on that one.
So her camp said no, it never happened. So of course she decided.
Pictures?
No. There was already pictures on the internet of them together, but I guess as her.
He was out with another man's wife, and then she said, no, it's not what you think.
Right. But he said that Will gave her permission. So.
Okay. Still, you kind of.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So you know that Jada has the Red Table Talk. I don't know if you know, but she has her own little show on the internet. And she actually brought him to the show, August Alsina, in 2018 because she helped him overcome his addiction. So they talked about how she influenced him and how she helped him heal and overcome this addiction. And this was in 2018. So after the word came out, she decided that she would promote that she's going to come on her own show and bring her issues to the table. So yesterday, her and Will went to the table talk, to the red table, and discussed what she called an entanglement with August Alsina. So,
yeah.
So when she called it an entanglement, Will was like,
well, read the comment.
Yeah. Yeah, right. From one addiction to the next. So when she kept calling it an entanglement, Will was like, we're going to call it what it is. You keep saying entanglement. That was a pure out relationship. And he wanted her to say that it was a relationship. And so she finally was like, well, I was in a relationship with August Alsina while we were on a break. So she said that they were kind of separated. They were on a break. And that's what happened. So that's where the entanglement word of the day comes from. It's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot, because here's the thing. First of all, if you do have a relationship with somebody and it's non-traditional, you can't, just because it's true doesn't mean everybody needs to know it. Now, my first question is, I call it the superstar sex theory. Mm-hmm. An average guy who works out, eats good, has some money in his pocket, is going to have more options with more beautiful women than The Rock, or who's another handsome, everybody wants some black man. Name one. Name a handsome black dude.
Yusef. No, I'm just kidding. Denzel Washington.
Listen, whoa. For your husband, when he watches this replay,
he's probably watching it right now.
I'm not trying to get stabbed up.
It is okay to call another man handsome, just like it's okay for him to acknowledge the beauty of another woman. There is nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. So,
and certain things I will not say to another man's wife because I'm old-fashioned and misogynistic and all that other stuff. Certain jokes I'm not, because here's the thing: not all men think it's funny. But in any case, it's like if they have that relationship, and he went running his mouth about it. My first question is: had she left him? Was he trying to use that as a get back, or was for him was that going to be his like trying to get to the next level by? But I don't know. Snitching is not, and it doesn't matter. People talk about snitching. They want to talk about being criminals together, robbing a bank, making money. Getting known as somebody who can't keep his mouth shut, that's a long-term lose. You can't really win when your reputation is you can't keep your mouth shut.
So for me, I feel like it's a great marketing move because if we never knew the name August Alsina before, we now know his name, and he just dropped an album. So, and at the same time, even though it's snitching, I feel like it's still his truth to tell. If he decided that that's his truth and he needs that to tell the world to heal, hey, who am I to judge him? But if she wanted it to be a secret, then she shouldn't have, dated a 23-year-old who was friends with her son.
Friend with the son. That's kind of like, it's like when Arnold Schwarzenegger, he has a son with another woman, which whether or not he and his wife thought that was okay, that's their business. But he was having sex with one of his maids, which that's some dirtbag move. It's like if this is your son's friend, that's a dirtbag move as anybody, man, woman. Like just because you're a 50-year-old, 40-year-old man that 25-year-olds want to date, it can't be one of your kids. It can't be one of your kids' friends because that's just causing all kinds of extra nonsense that don't need to be there.
I agree. I definitely agree. And, I think she found herself in a situation where she was vulnerable as well because she was going through relationship issues. She was trying to help this young man better his life. And then somehow she slipped up and caught feelings for him. But, that's their story. Hey, I have my own marriage issues at the time.
You don't have issues. I don't trust people that are like, nah, everything is perfect over here. Like,
I'll be honest. My marriage now, I couldn't sit here and say, yeah, we got major issues because we don't. You can look at us crazy if you want to now, but we have issues with grieving children. We have those issues, but as far as our relationship, now we're good.
But I'm also guessing one of you isn't 23.
That part is correct. However, there is an age difference between myself and my husband now, but it's not 20 plus years.
Okay, dear heart, dear friend, Dominic Antoinette said, just because you find a person handsome or beautiful doesn't mean you absolutely want to fuck them. What one finds in beauty can be platonic. I don't look at art and go, wow, that's nice, I gotta hump it. Now, here's the problem.
I agree.
We are that way. If we find a woman attractive, we absolutely want to have sex with them. We don't have to. We can choose not to. But as a man, you do not separate, I think she's pretty from I want to have sex with her. It doesn't happen for us. Now, we'll lie to you for the sake of conversation. To make it
I disagree. I disagree.
You can disagree all day. You're not a man.
That's what I'm saying. You can speak to as a man.
Have the discipline to say, I won't do this because this is wrong. But to say I find her pretty and I don't, in any case, that's what we're here for. So you moved to the UAE and you said you and your then husband said maybe we can change our environment, right?
Correct. Yeah, let's move to another country, change our environment. So from that point, I started interviewing for a job. I got the job very quickly. So what ended up happening is someone visited the campus that I was working at because I was a teacher at the time. And they said, well, this is where I live. This is how it works. And I said, well, this sounds great. Let me just on a whim go and apply. Never heard of the UAE, never heard of Abu Dhabi. But this was a great opportunity for me to change my environment for myself, my children, and my marriage. So I did. And within weeks, I had an interview for 2 different recruiting agencies. One, teachanywhere.com, and one was footprintsrecruiting.com. So they came to the US and did face-to-face interviews, and I got offered both positions. So from that point, I resigned from my job for the end of the school year, and I decided to put my house on the market to lease out to someone. Well, fast forward maybe about 2 months, and it was time for us to go. My then husband worked offshore, so I knew that he was going to be leaving for one more leg of 30 days offshore. And then by the time we come back, it'll be time for us to leave, to pack up and go. So he dropped us off at the airport June 24th, 2013. I remember the date exactly, to visit family in California. And that was the last day I seen him.
So he just abandoned you.
He just left. And I didn't see him anymore. So of course we talked. And at this point, I'm every bit of angry Black woman you're gonna get. This is not friendly conversations anymore because I'm packing up a house. I have 3 children here. He stopped financially supporting us. So he stopped his direct deposit in the bank. So now any money that I've saved is to help pay the rest of the bills. And so I decided I had a decision to make. I've already quit my job. I basically moved out of my house. Someone else lives in their home. So I'm pretty much homeless. So I decided that we're going to keep pushing forward. And if we're going to work on it, then we'll work on it with me being overseas. And so at that point, the kids and I packed up 8 suitcases and we carried on with our mission to move overseas.
That's brutal.
On which side?
Everyone. You deserve what happened to you. And I also, and hear me out on this, though he was wrong, I have to have compassion for a man that's battling demons so large that he thinks the answer is to abandon his wife and children. Like, I can only imagine what he was battling to make that a good idea. Because I got people in my family and both my parents were alcoholics. And it's like, they were battling monsters that never caused them to do any abandonment, but I saw just how bad that was just on a real, just personal level for them. You know, and unfortunately, thank goodness, I still always had 2 parents that cared about me and made sure, blah, 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 that I was never abandoned. But at the same time, for me, that tells me it could have gotten even worse. And I wonder sometimes, you know, as I rapidly approach maturity, it's never that easy. We know that someone can do something wrong for the wrong reasons. It's cowardly. To be clear, abandoning someone's family is cowardly. And I also ask myself, what drove someone to do that? You know, to walk away from your children. So then you moved forward and you went to the UAE and had this fabulous career there.
My career was my career. I wouldn't call it fabulous, but I was a teacher. I was a high school math teacher, nothing glamorous about that, but it was the life outside of teaching that made it fabulous. It was the life that I was afforded as a single parent because I moved to the UAE. So here in the States, being a single parent can sometimes be tough, but there I was able to hire a full-time nanny. The kids was able to ride on yachts for birthday parties on the weekends. We were able just to kind of travel the world as I lived there. So my kids have been exposed to so much that probably on a normal situation as a single parent, I wouldn't have been able to expose them to.
You know, one of the first real brutal conversations that we had was when we had that chat and I said, I don't know who said it. It might've been you. We talked about your children's life abroad. And this is a recurring theme on this channel. People who know me know where I'm going with this. For those of us who decided we are going to make it, the brain drain out of the United States, it's been huge. I mean, there are so many people leaving the United States right now. And the scary part is it's not the people who don't have anything to offer themselves or anyone else. It's the people like me, you, your current husband. It's those Black folks that are like, why am I here again? You know, for a lot of people, they're finding out America didn't turn on you. America was never on your team to begin with.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
I agree.
It got to the point where, and this is something that I would love to, if I can help you with anything or any of your friends with, I'll show you something else. This is something that I used to do privately on my LinkedIn. I actually had to make it professional. If anybody wants to catch me on LinkedIn, this is who I am, YusefWateef Thornton. But I have started doing expat relocation services permanently, and I do it for Brazil. I have contacts that do it for Colombia and in the Dominican Republic, sister companies as friends, but helping people figure out how to get out of the United States and move legally to a place like Brazil. I'm a permanent resident. I'll have my passport to be a Brazilian citizen soon, but it's one of those things that I've been flooded in my inbox with, how do I get this done? And I've been helping a lot of people do it. And if you and your family at any point, Brazil is a good option. You know, it's just like living in the UAE. Stop believing what the television tells people, because you've lived outside of the country enough to know everybody says, oh my goodness, you're moving there and they do this. And you're like, but I live there. It's weird. It's not like that.
And that actually happened when the story of my family and I was posted in the Huffington Post. In the comments were so
toxic.
Thank you. Toxic from people who've never even stepped out of America. You know, I had comments of people telling me that my child would be beheaded by Al Qaeda because I had comments that my child would be kidnapped by terrorists because I live in the Middle East. So I definitely know that there are a lot of people who don't get their information directly from a source, that they do use the media to, learn, to educate themselves, which isn't always the best way.
And it's scary. So we talked about how your children having this life abroad and then coming back to the United States. Well, okay, I didn't say it's like living in Brazil as that in Brazil is like living in the UAE. I'm saying living in a country that most of America only gets information from the television is the corollary. Brother Godway stopped explaining. Brother Godway comes back and forth from Brazil. I keep telling him that he likes to live in Rio de Janeiro, where the life out there is kind of a little bit more, and whereas Sao Paulo is more business and hustle, Rio is that wild ass cousin that you never know what you're gonna get with. And he loves it out there, and it just keeps kicking him in his ass, keeps going back for more, but he loves it. Brother Charles Wade says, very true, sometimes it's scary for folks to leave the only country they know. Could be a much better decision. Brother Charles Wade and I had a couple great conversations. He came out to Brazil to visit me. We ended up getting primetime real estate seats and enjoying sipping some afternoon coffee downtown together. And he's actually, and I'm going to save the surprise, but as far as people getting residency in another country, he's going to come in and be part of that conversation with us. All right, what did she say? I'll accept that those two countries, especially educated women, are apples to onion. Okay, thank you for straightening us out. BK from the Rockies, thank you for reintegrating that for the things I can do to help people. But we talked about what it's like for your children who spent many formative years in a country where being a Black American was the last thing they were rated on, as opposed to maybe being a foreigner, being the child of somebody who worked there, a lot of other things. And what it's like to go back to the United States, where simply being is enough to get them. And I say this delicately because I realize I'm talking to get them hurt.
Right. For them, when we went overseas, they weren't Black, they were American. It was their passport that changed the whole game for them, and not because of their skin necessarily. I will be honest and say that at times, if they were, because of classism in the UAE, if people thought that they were African, that switched everything. But it was that blue passport that made an entire difference of how they were treated. And I will say that I was able to expose them to something that I may not have been able to expose them to. Now, let me remind you that my children were born on the welfare system. So when I had kids, I was on anything that had an acronym: AFDC, WIC, TANF, food stamps, so SNAP, anything of that nature. That's what they were born into. So they were born into the system. So by statistics, they weren't supposed to be able to have access to any of this on a normal basis. However, by the time that my youngest was 6, they were going to school required to learn Arabic and French. This was a requirement in the country. So they were exposed to speaking Arabic, they were exposed to speaking French, and we were able to travel. And like I said, they were invited to birthday parties on yachts as at 6, 7, and 8 years old. The entire party was on a yacht, swimming off the yacht, going to different countries. So I'm very transparent because I want people to know that this is possible for them. Where you start is not always where you end, but there is a game plan to get there so that you can become better and you can have access to that. And I'm a firm believer that if people don't know it's available to them, they may not ever search for it. Right. So that's why I'm always so transparent about my journey in life, because I need people to know that, hey, it's possible. It's more than doable. I did it as a single parent, because I know many mothers out there say, well, I have kids. I'll wait to travel the world. I'll wait to, move overseas. Because right now, everybody's talking about moving overseas. Everybody, that's their exit strategy right now. And even myself, I'm ready to go back.
Me, you, your husband, the kids, if you can bring on a video call, I will put you in the game and get you into and here's the thing. We've talked about this. The cost of living in the United States, even compared to other first world developed nations, is so astronomical. Mm-hmm. I mean, we don't even have to go on. Let's just talk about something as simple as the world dealing with COVID and healthcare. First, the world will tell you, all right, that, what is it? If you go to Brazil, you're going to die because COVID is everywhere and people are just exploding in the streets and yeah, all that. And then when you ask them, you say, oh, wow, can you tell me where? And they say, what do you mean? You say, well, you just said that COVID is in Brazil, which is true. It's in every country. COVID's in Brazil. Can you tell me where? And they go, wait, what? Huh? I don't understand. I said, well, do you understand that Brazil is the same size as the United States? So when you say that there is COVID in Brazil, you got to tell me where you're talking about. And they go, huh? What? Small things like that. I tell people all the time that it's not necessarily that I think any country can handle a disease, you know, with extraordinary efficiency. Some do it better than others, and the United States is literally dead last right now. The problem is when you live in a place where healthcare is not a revenue stream. Let me tell you some things I have to pay more than I should for. If I buy a new MacBook Pro computer, like the kind I use for all this stuff, I'm going to pay a premium. I'm going to pay a lot more for it. If I want to buy a fancy new phone, I'm going to pay a lot more for it because electronics are more expensive here. But if I just say, you know what, I just don't feel good today. I'm on the government healthcare system and I can just go to a local hospital and they just say, do you have your, like I was told from the very beginning when I get my government card, keep it in your wallet. Because if you fall out in the street, people go in your wallet and they pull out your SUS card and call, you know, somebody and they just hand it to them. Because one of the questions you may be asked is, what are you allergic to and blah, blah, blah. But they're not going to say, excuse me, do you have an insurance card first?
Right.
You know how many of my clients are people over 60 who are realizing they will have to choose between medicine and food, even though they were productive members of society their entire life, and they have to now move to a country where at the very least an old person can go get their medicine. I think they have plans for like, you can either get it for $5 or one of my friends went to the store and he was really angry at the pharmacy. He was like, damn it. And I said, what, they don't have the medicine for you? He's like, yeah, they do, but I'll have to pay $5 here. But if I want to get it for free, I got to go to the government shop. And that's like a 20-minute taxi ride away. Like, wait, what? You're mad?
Yeah, I agree. Like that was when I came back to America, just having to deal with that as far as healthcare, because in the UAE, my healthcare was covered. My children's healthcare was covered. I didn't pay anything out of pocket for the most part. And so my son, who's a severe asthmatic, to get an inhaler for him was pretty either free to $5 max. And
right.
Then I can come back to America, and as a single parent and a teacher, I'm paying $600 a paycheck, not a month, a paycheck to cover our healthcare. And if I do still need to get his inhaler, that was still another $70 on top of it. You know, so for me, that was.
Let me think. My rent isn't $600 I live 15 minutes away from downtown.
Right. So before I even got to see my check, I was already short like almost $1,000 between taxes, insurance, retirement, done. And as a single parent, I need every single dollar that I can get. And so that hurt me to see that when I come into my own country, I'm not valued as a teacher, but I go somewhere else and they're covering my housing, they're covering my insurance, they're giving me plane tickets home every year. So it was pretty upsetting. It was hard for me to adjust coming back to America.
You know, you said something interesting, and it also ties in nicely. It ties in nicely with what Reigning Woman said here about the Patreon. I show people this all the time. Everything I do, I give out most of the fun stuff. I do it here on YouTube, but I have a Patreon account, and my Patreon is a lot less fun than YouTube. Let me be clear. My Patreon account is not nearly as much fun as we're having now, because that's where I put a lot of the hardcore information on what I do and how I get it done. So people say, oh, I want to live overseas. What do I do? Well, I'm not going to make you read through all that, but this is where we put videos of technical information. Now watch this. You just said something interesting, and I'm going to put it in the thing. We talk about things here like, nope, that's my Forex stuff. Where is it? No, there's one that I did with Sedation, who's on here now, and it was about living as a teacher abroad, about how people can come to Brazil as a teacher with an international teaching license, make more money than, take home money than they ever could in the US, having apartment paid for, food paid for, plus salary, plus, it just gets, the list goes on. And I know so many people who had no idea. They had no idea that that stuff was even possible. They had no idea that you could, where is it? Where is it? 67 more, maybe. I'll have to find it. But they had no idea that that stuff was even possible.
Yeah.
There. Check that out. A really good, there. That's the one I'm looking for. I gotta find it though. I can't. Not too many videos here. But yeah, things like that that make all the difference in the world. And it's scary because teachers in America are some of the lowest valued people, whereas when you go overseas, especially if you are an American with an American education and an American teaching degree, you can go to one of these private schools and make a ton of money. A ton of money.
Right.
Take home money, real money. Oh, here's another big one, and you can relate to this one. Hold on a second. The one where we did a video about the process of getting your passport and getting all your documents in line to leave the country. My goodness, that was a huge one for a lot of people that needed that information. Like, hold on.
Yeah, I could have definitely used that information. I had to do a lot of searching on the internet to figure out step by step of what I needed to do for myself and my children. And
so we put that there for how to do background check for immigration and visas. But I'm looking for the one on when we, no, that's my friend who's a credit specialist who came in and we talked about American credit, the credit system and things he can do. I have a friend, Ashley, the attorney. She talked about filing taxes late and still getting the government fixer-upper because it's possible, but most people don't know how to do that. Pimsleur. Oh, there it is. High salary teaching. Finally. High salary teaching is the one where everybody got a lot out of because we went step by step on how to take a teaching degree from America and translate that into going abroad. And again, it was one of those people just don't even know. People just don't even know. They act as if. Here's the thing: America doesn't really want people with talent to leave. They want you to stay for free. It's awkward. But the people who have the most to gain by leaving, those Black educated people, my goodness, we've been pouring out of that country. And a lot of us are dealing with those issues of how do I get out? And when I get out, how do I deal with realizing that a lot of people that and love can't really relate to it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have many people in my family who initially had passports. My parents didn't get passports until I moved out of the country, just so they can visit me. So, just having a resource to where I can just say, hey, cousin, I know you've moved overseas. Show me how to do it. I didn't have that available to me. So for what you're doing to help people learn step by step, because if I had an expat relocation service when I was trying to do this, it would have been so much easier for me because getting birth certificates attested and all of that it was a lot. It was a lot.
What I'll also do is say that it's worth it.
Yeah.
It's worth it. It's a lot, but it's worth it. So you're in the UAE. What brought you back to the United States, and what was that process like? What was that thinking process like?
So we were there for almost 4 years, and in that time, there was a strain on the relationship with my children and their father. So not necessarily because of something that I decided to do, but choices he made as a parent as well. They went back to America one summer and he was supposed to pick them up from my dad's house and he didn't show. He changed his phone number and for 7 months, they didn't hear from him. So over the years, we had to deal with things like that. So I think over a 4-year period, they may have seen them 10, maybe 15 days in the 4 years. So every summer they were there for at least 60 days. But my children started to express a desire to be closer to their father. And they felt like being overseas was a detriment to them having a relationship. So they felt like if we were in America, it would, be a lot better. So they were able, after a while, after the 7 months passed, they did get back to communicating with him via the phone. but they wanted his presence and they needed his presence. Mainly my daughter. Like my youngest son, he was cool staying where he was. My middle son, he was less vocal. He was happy either way, but my daughter really wanted her dad in her life. So as a parent, I had to make a decision. Like, do I stay here? We're doing well. I'm financially well off. Or do I move back? But what I didn't want was that resentment at the end of the day to be on me, that I was the reason they couldn't have that relationship.
You were in an impossible situation. You couldn't win.
Right. I couldn't win. So if I stayed and, they didn't have that relationship 20 years down the road, it would have been like, you were the reason we couldn't. Even if dad didn't do what he was supposed to do, I felt like it still would have been on me, for not giving them that opportunity. So I made that decision to come back because it's not about me. I have to do what's best for my children. And I felt like that was what's best for my children. So we were back maybe 72 hours. And I talked to their dad and he said, well, just to let you know, I'm going to have surgery to do a biopsy. They think I might have cancer. And then maybe 2 weeks later, he called me back and he was like, I have stage 4. It's terminal. I don't have much time. So in my heart of hearts, I felt like my daughter knew. She had a feeling that she needed to be closer to her dad. So I'm happy we moved back, but it was a hard place to be in.
You couldn't win, no matter what happened. Yeah, no matter what happened, you can't win.
No, and that's what many parents, they hit those roadblocks, that they have the tough decisions to make, especially if you're co-parenting. And that was just one of my tough decisions I had to make.
So you know what? Hold on. I need to get some water. I apologize. I try to drink about a gallon a day, and I normally keep my water bottle right next to me. But just to move forward on the conversation, when you were dealing with that, when you're feeling like, hey, if I stay where I am, we're done. So you go back to the United States. After you get back to the United States, what were you greeted with? What was the America that you came back to?
Well, like I said, initially I was greeted with, hey, my kid's father now has cancer and he's about to die. And it's like, wow. And, I wasn't living in my own home at the time. I was still living in a suitcase because my tenants, who hadn't paid rent in like 2 months, refused to move out. And so my tenants who were living in my home, I gave them, before I came back, I gave them a 30-day notice to vacate because they didn't pay rent. By the time I landed back, they were still in the house, refusing to leave. And so the process, of course, you have to go through an entire court process before you can evict them. So basically the kids and I were stuck living out of a suitcase in a friend's house. We were sharing a bedroom, 2 bedrooms in a friend's house. So that was my welcome back to America. Like, hey, your ex-husband has cancer and you have nowhere to live.
Not be funny.
I mean, that's the reality of it. That's so it wasn't, and it was hard on me because I had to make sure that I protected the space for my children, because now not only did I uproot them from the home that they knew for 4 years and the friends that they made and the school that they were in, we shifted into a whole new country just for them to have to stay in someone else's home, not have their own space, start a new school. And my daughter was hit with the fact that her first day of school, she was starting 6th grade in America. And she came home. She was like, Mom, they have metal detectors. Why do they have metal detectors? She was totally oblivious to why America has metal detectors in their school. She experienced her first school fight. She was like, Mom, they were fighting at school. We have a police officer who's on campus. She was just like, this was total reverse culture shock for her. And then as time went by, we started getting hit with the Michael Browns. And so now I'm in a place where I have to explain to my sons what's going on, explain to my sons what it means to be a Black boy in America, and how to protect themselves. So it was a lot. It was really a lot at one time for me, definitely.
Explaining what it's like to be Black in the United States is impossible, even for those of us who went through our adolescence there. And I remember us talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
The entire concept of, and here's one of the things that I get all the time. Isn't Brazil dangerous? And I go, it's a lot less dangerous than where you live. And they say, wait a minute, I read that Brazil has lots of shootings, more shootings than America. I said, yeah, but have you noticed they're never in schools and movie theaters? That it's usually people, with police and doing shit in neighborhoods that I don't ever want to live in, but that's what America is. America, you can just be at the mall with your family and just get shot. You can have a policeman recorded murdering you on the street, and it's just gonna be okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you wonder why. You wonder why, those of us who do get a taste of freedom. Because, by the way, I'll tell you something. A much older guy told me once when I was living in, I want to say Shanghai, China. His hair was almost all white, and he had lived in Shanghai for a couple of years. And he said, young man, you realize you're cursed, right? And I said, what are you talking about? He says, you have all this stuff about maybe one day going back to America and seeing a city there. He said, you have already seen what the rest of the world is like. Going home is never going to be an option for you anymore. And I have so many friends who are expats and former expats who call me, and some of them have had to break down and cry talking about how they went back to America. And because remember, it's not them who changed, it was you. And they come back to America and they're like, I hate every day of my existence because I forgot how good I had it living overseas. Not just the international living. What a lot of us say, and we're going to do some classist conversation here, so anybody who's got a problem needs to exit now. When you live overseas, you forget you're spoiled because most of the people you're around are other people who have seen other parts of the world. You're not having your regular afternoon lunch break with somebody who's never left home and who's never seen more of the world. So now when we go home again, we realize we're around the same people who we may love, who may love us, but will always meet us with a bit of resentment when we talk about something that may be happening on a global scale and they're talking about the same thing they were talking about when you left.
Yeah, I mean, and for me, trying to teach my sons the ins and outs of trying to be a Black boy in America, of course, I can't.
And I'm being positive. That's the thing. Would it even be good? I'm sorry, I'm not yelling at you.
I feel like you are.
I'm saying, what can you teach him that's a positive trait of how he should be received in America? Keep your head down. Don't yell too loud. Stay away from white people. That kind of stuff. Stuff that's only going to dampen their spirit. And it's like, that's an awful thing to have to try and absorb as a child.
Yeah. I mean, I remember there was a time when we were living in the UAE, we were very avid paintballers and airsofters. Like I take my kids paintballing all the time. So yeah, I love paintballing. So that's something the kids and I did. So when we came back to America, my son loved to airsoft. He loves to do airsoft. In the UAE, boys play with guns outside. They bring little toy guns to school. That's just a thing. Here in America, my dad bought my son an airsoft gun that resembled like a semi-automatic rifle. It was very realistic. And when I say it, my heart went to my stomach and I yelled at him for having it. I told him he can't take it out the house. He can't use it. He can't bring it to the airsoft facility. That gun is to never leave this house because I was scared that someone would take it as a real gun. And he didn't understand because we're just coming from a country where he could just walk around with, the airsoft gun and the paintball gun and would never be an issue. But now having to tell him we're in America now and the way that you move in the UAE is totally different. To have to explain that to an 11-year-old is devastating.
And at 11, he should be worried about whether or not he can get his homework done in time to watch his favorite show. That's what he should be worried about at 11.
Right. Yeah. Like in the UAE, I can let my children play outside any hour of the night, play basketball in the driveway, do whatever. Here, that's just not possible. It's not possible. My children got to see me experience a bit of racism in my own neighborhood here just recently. We live in a gated community. I was getting ready to drive into my community and a white guy stopped me and my daughter. My daughter was driving and asked me if he could see my ID so that he can verify that I lived in the community. Now, mind you, we all have gate cards. He just he just drove past me and got to his quicker, but he wanted me to literally verify to him that I lived in the community, and he asked me for my ID. Sir, you're not a police officer for one, and you don't have the right to police me, so to have my children experience that. And then on top of that, this was like the week after George Floyd. So George Floyd was my children's cousin, third cousin. Right. So now they're like, well, that's my blood. They literally killed my blood. So having to explain all of that to them, and they haven't, barely reached, my oldest boy is 13. They're not even close to manhood. So this should not be any type of conversation to have with a child.
I say a lot of things, but this is one of those situations where what can there's nothing I can. I didn't make the connection between the names.
Yeah, my married name is Floyd. My ex-husband, yes, that was George Floyd's cousin.
I'm sorry.
I mean, but there's nothing any of us. It's not our fault. I felt like I was hiding my children when I was overseas. Like I was hiding them. And it just saddens me that that's the only way that we can fully live in peace is to run to another country. And when we run, unfortunately, we leave our families behind. So what do we do about that? How do we protect our fathers? How do we protect our cousins?
You're right. You were hiding your children and you were doing the right thing. You guys have a huge family there now.
Yes.
Right? There's 8 of you total?
9.
Okay. I keep losing track. There are just so many. Any more coming, by the way?
Who? How? No. No more children. We're good. So total, we have 7 children. I think we skipped a large part of the story. People are like, how did she go from a single mom to a family of 9? So yes, I did remarry. Met my husband on the internet. Shout out to Facebook.
Amen.
Yeah. So we're now a big family of 9.
Wow. So what's the escape plan?
So when you have a big family like we do, and it's a blended family, there's so many moving parts that you have to consider. We have full-time custody of 5 of the children, and one of the kids is an adult. She's almost 20. And then we have a 16-year-old. So us picking up and leaving isn't that simple, because you have other people that you have to discuss this with. You have other families, other mothers that you have to discuss this with. And for me right now, because my children just went through the process of leaving, of burying their own father who eventually passed, I don't feel like right now is a good time, because they need to be around their family. They're still grieving, and it would be selfish of me just to pick up and leave. So it's always like, for me, it's always a no-win situation, right? They need stability right now. We've done a lot of moving around. away from their family. So it would be hard for me just to pull them and say, hey, forget your family, forget your friends. We're moving to another country, even though it may be the safest place for us to be. So I'm always kind of toggling with that of what's the right thing to do.
How do the kids feel?
They're split. Like I had my youngest son. My youngest son didn't want to leave the UAE, period. He was fine with it. Of course, my daughter, who's entering her sophomore year in high school, she doesn't want to leave because she wants to be closer to the family. Like she's trying to be closer to her dad's family. She doesn't want to leave her dad's gravesite. There's still a lot of things in play when it comes to her. The other kids, they're military kids, so they've been moving around their whole life. So this is the first time, I think, for the youngest, for the twins, this is probably the first time they've been still for the longest, because they've moved around to North Carolina, to Hawaii, to Washington. So they've done nothing but move. So for them, it's important that we find stability for them as well. So we have split votes around here. So it looks like Real Brother, he did ask, how the kids feel. Like I said, it's split. So what do you do when you have 7 children and it's a split vote? And
the split isn't along party lines either.
Correct. And, at the same time, my children, the 3 that belong to me, that I birthed, shall I say, they've experienced what it's like outside of America. The other ones have not had the opportunity to experience that yet. So it's kind of hard to get a true depiction of how they feel about moving overseas because they've never experienced it either. So if you ask a regular person like, hey, do you want to move to Brazil? They're going to be like, no, because they know nothing about it. They know nothing about life outside of America. So.
Well, this is what I always say. You can play a really interesting trick on them. You say, listen, let's just do 3 months. But over the summer, and then you take them and you make sure that 3 months is a powerful 3 months. 6 months in 2 different places. Get them to the point, like, wait, this is what it's like outside? Say, yeah, but you got to go back now. And spend that whole next semester prepping them to leave.
Yeah, I actually thought about it like while we're in the situation, because virtual learning is a thing right now. Just taking them somewhere for a month, 2 months, just to kind of experience, well, personally for me, because I need to get up out of here, but just to experience life outside of the U.S. for the other children. And, also with my husband, he was in the military, so he did a lot of traveling outside. So he missed a lot of time with his family, and his parents are getting older as well. They're in New York. So that's also a big part of it as well. Like he wants to be able to spend time with his family as well. And moving overseas may not afford that to him.
Got a couple interesting comments here for you.
Yeah, I see.
Here's another one. Oh, it's on bumper stickers. Yeah.
So I would be really curious just to find out what the talk for white people, what does that talk look like for them and their children of how to interact with police? Do they tell them, hey, turn your light on, put your hand on the steering wheel, don't reach for anything? Like, is it the same? Is it literally the same conversation that we have to have with our children of how to interact?
Dominant Internet can leave it in the comments. She's also welcome anytime on the platform. Dear friend. Brother Amihud, and good afternoon, wherever you are. I understand the child returned back after almost 10 years in West Africa with 3 children. It's definitely a process to be active. Wait, you're no longer in West Africa. When did you go back to? I'm looking at your background. We grew up together in Niagara Falls, New York. Okay, so here's the thing, Brother Amihud. I'm going to say I want you to send me your phone number. We are going to have to talk soon because I want to hear about your 10 years there and what brought you back. Yeah, we got to talk. What's your phone number? We haven't spoken in, I'm looking on the internet. We haven't, excuse me. Yeah, we haven't spoken online in a while. I want to hear from you. Fears enough. Yeah. So you met on Facebook. How did he slide in your DMs? What was the one that got you sliding on? How did he get in there?
So what actually happened was I was put into a Facebook group. You know how people can put you in a group and you have no clue that you're in the group?
Until they give, well, now I think they have to ask. They're like, hey, do you want to?
No, I still get to see stuff. Like I don't join, and I still see stuff pop up on my feed from the groups that I'm not even in, you know, officially. So anywho, someone put me into this group because I guess they saw that I was dating at the time, and I had just got out of a relationship maybe a few months prior. And actually the person that I was dating prior, I met on the internet as well, because I guess that's where I spend most of my time at. So I was in this group, and I made a post about dating single parents because I got tired of people saying, hey, I'm not going to date anyone that has children, which is, hey, that's fine. That's totally up to you. Your preference, do you. But I did want to know if people had a certain number of kids that they were maxed out at. Like if she had 2 kids, that's too many. You know, if she has 4 kids and 2 baby daddies.
Maximum number.
What's the max number? People have a max number, whether you believe it or not. Some people have 0, some people have 2. Even as a parent, I had my own max number as well. I think at the time, my max number was like he could have 2 kids, 1 baby mother. We're good. So I made a post in a dating group and asked that question. And it was actually 3 years from yesterday. So yesterday was our 3-year sliding your DM anniversary. And so I made the post and asking people what their number was. And he responded as well because he was a single parent. And he said, yeah, normally people, they like leave the relationship when he tells them that he has 4 children and 2 mothers of his children. So he's like 80% of the women don't even give him time because of that fact alone. And so from then it was like, oh, hey, well, let's talk about this more in the DM, slide in the DM. So ever since that day, he actually DM'd me, and we spoke ever since that day. He was stationed in North Carolina. I was in Texas at that point, and we long distance dated for about 4 months until we actually met in person.
Wow. His text game must have been.
Well, he's a New York man, so he's from Syracuse. So y'all, you know how you guys are. Y'all very suave.
But yeah, it's and so what was the, like, from 0 to wedding ring? How long did that go?
So we talked for 4 months. Well, he asked me to be his girlfriend, which he knew that was very big for me. Because I needed somebody that was going to say, hey, we're together. Because my previous relationship had an issue with commitment. So I needed that. So before we even met, he was like, hey, you want to be my girlfriend? Cool. We'll start from there. We dated long distance for about a year because he was still in the United States Army. So he was still stationed in North Carolina. I had just planted my seeds in Texas. So I wasn't planning on moving, planning on uprooting my children again. So for a year, we dated long distance, flying back and forth between each city. And then finally, a year later, he decided to retire and then, you know, pick up everything. He had 2 children that were living with him, twins. So he was a single father to them, picked them up, uprooted them, and moved down to Texas. And I think maybe 6 months after that, he proposed. 6 months after that, we got married.
Wasted. But here's the thing. I think you did it the right way. You found somebody who also had a family that wanted to make that blended family, you know, and get together with that. I think that's rare. And I think that you both understood what you needed, because, you know, I have friends who have children. They always talk about how you have to, you know, you can be a lot more, you can be a gunslinger when you don't have any kids.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when you do, you got to, like, I have a friend of mine who's moving here to Brazil, and part of my company, and he's hired me to do certain things. But one of the requirements that he has for me with the apartment that I'm having my realtor look up for him is it's got to have a living situation that allows him to be in one area and his son to be in another area, because, you know, you've got to be careful about things like that. And it's just but I'm glad that you two finally, you know, both of you, not just him, I don't even know, but I'm glad for him that he found you and you found him.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It was necessary because I have my tubes tied. So even, you know, I feel like I'm relatively young. I'm still in my 30s, you know, and there were some men that I was meeting that still wanted children. And that's just something that I wasn't willing to provide.
Closed.
Factory is shut down. These eggs are dusted. Like, yeah. I got buttermilk I'm spreading around here.
We did not need that.
I'm just keeping it real. So, you know, so to me, guys, it's like, hey, I don't have kids. I still want it. And I was in a position of how much was I willing to give for a relationship. And so to find a man who has more than enough kids and I have more than enough kids, hey, we're good. We're you know, his factory is shut down too. So both factories are closed. No more babies.
Yeah. I can tell you, you know, I've lost some amazing relationships with women because I don't want any kids. And for a lot of totally healthy and reasonable women, that's a deal breaker.
Yeah.
You know, that's like, wait, everything else is going well, but you don't want? No. But then they complain to me that they meet these guys are like, I want a baby next year. And it's like, we have something lengthy I'd like you to read.
Mm-hmm.
Out loud?
Oh, you're one of those type of teachers. Like I was that kid. Like, don't call on me. The talk to Tanae. I would say no, it is different. There are a lot of things that are assumed by skin color, but the don't undo your seatbelt, have your license and registration not in your wallet and available, hands on the steering wheel, explain your action, then ask permission to do them. Assume most cops are having a bad day, but there are things those who are white definitely get away with. Like my wife passing a stopped bus in error and the ticket was dismissed. Was there more? Oh, that's it.
No. Just Brother Jay Shine saying good conversation. So, yeah, that's
Yeah, so we have the Black Brady Bunch going on over here.
You can only imagine 9 people. We were joking the other day about how for you to even go out and take everybody out, let's all just go get some lunch. That's like 9 people. If you took everybody out for lunch, like if the average person can eat let's say a $25 meal.
That's you. We discussed that. That's you eating a $25 meal. Everybody doesn't eat a $25 meal. They get the kids' meal.
See, listen, my family, look, I was eating adult-sized meals when I was like 10. My mother told me that there would be plenty of weekends if I went to go hang out with my cousins. She would slow palm their mom or dad an extra $50 because I was gonna eat like here, just go and just buy a couple extra steaks. I don't want you to feel bad as he tries to clean you out, because I was only child. I didn't realize that everybody's family didn't eat like mine did, you know? So when I say I want more food, I'm not just talking about the main course. My mother said she was worried about me health-wise, and the doctor asked her an important question. He said, well, when he says he wants more food, is he only talking about like the glazed carrots because they're sweet? She's like, no, he'll eat a pot more of broccoli, another steak, another baked potato, and a salad with it. He was like, well, that's good. I don't know what to make of that, but.
Yeah. So for us to do anything, even especially traveling, so I have to be very, you know, conscious of how we plan our travels, because we still travel, you know, so I find deals. Like I have to travel on deals with them, because even a Spirit ticket.
Videos of you doing your coupon thing and showing people how you hustle that many people you got to feed. I
don't coupon. I can't. I don't have the capacity. That takes a lot. That really does. You know, luckily we've been afforded the opportunity to be financially stable, so we don't have to, you know, nickel and dime our way through it. But, you know, there's still some things that's like, okay, do we put the kids in tutoring or do we pay for AAU basketball? Because, you know, that costs. So even when we travel, like, hey, we're flying Spirit, because 9 times the Spirit ticket's still gonna get you to about $3,000 a pop. if you go into New York, for let's say. So yeah.
So okay, with you, what are you doing now? You're not going back to teaching in the United States of no opportunity.
I quit. They got my 2-week notice, and I'm done. I quit this year. This was my last year teaching.
So, what now?
So I have a very supportive spouse. I have an extremely supportive husband who has, he sees so much in me, and he says, he wants me to pursue my purpose and pursue my passion. So he's giving me the room to basically figure this entrepreneurship thing out. So I already have a business. I'm a co-founder of Wondering Moms. That is we have a Facebook group of over 2,000 women who are around the world, who literally travel and they want to give their children the world. So we curate lots of trips for them, group trips. So every year we do a Mother's Day trip with moms only. No children, no dads allowed. And so we do that. And we do about 6 family trips throughout the year. But because of COVID, that's kind of like, we're on pause. But I do want to go out there and inspire women to dream big and figure out how to break barriers and get to the next level that they desire in life. Because I think it's totally possible, to go from food stamps to passport stamps, as I did. It's totally possible. So I want to show women how to make that happen.
Here you go. Wandering Moms.
That's us. Yeah.
Well, as you build your business, as always, I'm here for you. Anything that I can do for you, with you, any opportunities that I can give you, please let me know. I'm here. I
will. I always appreciate that. You always, for the last 6 years, you've offered your time, your resources, your knowledge. And just to let people know, we've never met. Like, we've never met in person.
Did you share this link in your Wandering Moms group?
Say it again.
Did you share this video in your Wandering Moms group?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right, because I'm gonna check. Because you got to help me get out there too. We got a quick question from Al. Read that.
You want me to read aloud again?
Yes, please.
Out of curiosity, did your children find American food gross when they came back? Did they still want McDonald's fast food like a typical American teen? Yes, they did. So even when we traveled, like I have this one son, my youngest son, when we traveled, he still wanted chicken nuggets from McDonald's. We could be in Thailand, we could be in the Philippines. He did not want to try anything new. He just wanted McDonald's and chicken nuggets. So it's across the board. And for me, the way that the American food affected me, I gained weight when we came back from overseas because of the preservatives and the hormones. And so when I went to America, I lost a lot of weight. But then when I came back and started eating the processed foods again, then it was done. I was out of there.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I always tell people living outside the United States, especially in a place like Brazil, on Sunday, I can go down to the market and for less than 50 US bucks, I have those big permanent shopping bags, big plastic ones. I will get more food than I can eat in a week. Chicken, here's the interesting thing. When I first got here, I realized you can't buy food for the week the way you can in the United States because it's not loaded with preservatives.
Right.
I would buy a half raw chicken, cook half, put the other half in, and then 2 days later it smells bad. And it's like, oh, that's because it was probably alive 2 days ago.
Yeah. Same thing in the UAE. Like I can only buy bread to last me for, 3 or 4 days. Because after that, the mold start kicking in. Here, my bread will last about 2-3 weeks. If it doesn't get eaten and before the mold would kick in. So there's definitely a difference depending on where you live.
Wow. We got to do this more often. What I'm going to do is add you to a group of people that I talk to whenever I have a big discussion. I let them know, hey, I'm going on, and I know you're busy, but I hope you come on and chat with us as far as some of our larger discussions.
I've been meaning to talk to you about that because you kicked me out of a group.
I kicked you out. No, I wouldn't have kicked you out.
You kicked me out of the WhatsApp group. That one WhatsApp group you had.
You never interacted.
It doesn't matter. I'm there. I'm getting knowledge. I'm getting information. Just because I don't speak doesn't mean anything. And you kicked me out.
Okay, I added you back.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to meet the Blacugees.
The what?
Blacugees, Black refugees. We had a really in-depth conversation a while back on being Black refugees. One of the conversations that's a recurring theme here, something that people who know this channel have seen before. Did you know, and this is something you may know intuitively, did you know that if you are a Black American, you qualify for refugee status under the United Nations qualification of what a refugee is, under the prescription of you're part of a group of people that are murdered based on their ethnicity and social case. But the United States puts a lot of pressure on a lot of countries to never acknowledge that because they don't want it to be. Other countries love knowing that America, like, by the way, here, you see this one right here, Blacugees, Black refugees. I want everybody to go back and watch that. And I'll put the link in as well. But this right here is a great conversation we had. And so, you know, we started a YouTube group as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put two things here in the chat. Let's see. One, I'm going to put the link to the, come on. I hope that you join that group as well. As a matter of fact, now that you said,
I'll join if you don't kick me out.
I promise I will make sure you get in, and I promise not to let you out. But I mean, not to kick you out. But at the same time, you know, a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know that the way the United States is set up, you have legal precedent to be taken in as a refugee by other countries. A lot of people don't know that one of the things that I've done for people coming to Brazil while they're waiting on trying to get their citizenship, I've actually had people register, and I've done it. You can register as a refugee in Brazil and get full status as a citizen while your citizenship is being taken care of. But most Black people don't know that because it's like boiling a frog. You get used to the pain. You get used to the discomfort. Your children are never going to fully adjust because they know that the rest of the world is out there. They know that it doesn't have to be that way. So they're never going to fully adjust.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's one of those situations where once you know, you can't pretend that you don't anymore. You can't, you know, no one gets to pretend that it's something that has to be that way. Brother Jay Shine said we are a persecuted group, and he is absolutely correct. He is telling the gospel. Jay Shine, I'm hoping he can come on to my channel at some point. I want to share some views back and forth with him, but a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't realize that you can. It's not a fair system. Let me be clear. The world is not a fair place. Those of us that have an education and something to offer can find a home all over the world. All over the world. The Amazing Adventure of the Blacugees. Blacugees. And I hope everybody gets a chance to join that as well. But we have some very interesting conversations going on there. You know, it's one of those, you don't know until you know, but once you know, it's a very different issue. It's a very different issue. And I hope that you and your kids can join that group too. It's a family-friendly group. We're not discussing anything untoward.
Oh, the kids don't have social media.
Huh?
Say it again.
What'd you say?
No, I was saying the kids don't have social media. They don't have Facebook.
You know what's interesting? Every one of my friends who said that found out much later they were totally wrong because children are so much better at technology than even people only as old as we are.
Oh, I find out. Trust me. I didn't say they never had it. I said they don't have it right now because I find out. Trust me.
I would like to put a 5-year bet that after they finally left home, because here's the thing, we're not old, but to them and to technology, we're antique. I would be willing to bet you a hot chicken dinner, you and your husband both, that they do. But here's the problem. The younger you are, the better you are at the game.
So they share a TikTok and they share Instagram that I have passwords to. Now, see, here's the thing about having a big family. They rat each other out. So I always find out because when one gets mad at the other, they always share the secret Instagram information. Oh, yeah.
I'm not a parent, but here's the question. Do you reward them snitching on each other, or do you say, hey, you know, you really shouldn't do that? Because I've always wondered, because I don't have any brothers and sisters. So if anybody, you know, it was either A, I did it, because I'm the only one in the house that could have done it, or B, nobody ever found out because I didn't have any I didn't have any Confederates with me. So as I grew up, one of the smartest things I ever did is I learned how to just keep my mouth shut.
So I don't reward, but I do tell them, hey, if you see your sibling doing something wrong, you should say something. You should either give them advice to help them do better, or if they're not listening to your advice, then hey, let me know. But I never rat them out. So they never know who told me. They just know that I found out about it. So no, I don't reward it because snitches get stitches. But
and there's that humble upbringing that you came back from.
Right. So, but I'm still fairly young, so I know how to navigate and find certain information out. Mom's still in her 30s, and I hadn't always been a mother, so I make sure they understand that I have not always been mommy. Before then, I did have a life, and I know how to work around some things myself.
One of my friends, he said the interesting thing that happened to him, because we grew up in a just middle class, I guess. I had a house. I never had to live in a housing project. We had housing stuff. But he said one of the most interesting things that happened to him is as his children grew up in a much more affluent neighborhood, he realized they're not slick at all. Because, we grew up with a diverse school set of this and that. He was like, his kids have, and he said it's actually disappointing to realize his son has no guile about him. Like, he's finding stuff out that, like, you should be able to hide this at your age.
No, we have a very fairly open relationship. If you watch the kids and I, as we went through Abu Dhabi, we would have a lot of talks on Facebook Live, just the kids and I, and it was very open. So they know how to just be honest about it. Like if I catch you, your best bet is just to tell me the truth. And 9 times out of 10, if I'm asking you, I probably don't even know the truth, but you're gonna tell me before we end the conversation.
Tell the truth the first time.
Yeah, so
tell the truth the first time. Don't put us in a situation where I gotta get the confession the hard way.
Right.
Asking questions, bringing up slides, bringing up infrared video. That's you on the video. It's not me, Bob.
Oh no, it's you. So yeah, I'm that parent. Like I'll talk you into circles until you tell the truth, because I already know what it is. I'm your mom. I gave birth to you. We always know.
All right. Well, listen, I got to run. And this has been an emotional roller coaster, but I'm glad where we are. I mean, of course, you'll be back, but this has been wild.
Yep. My life in an hour and 22 minutes. The story of my life.
When are you going to invite me on your channel?
On my YouTube?
Yes.
Why do you say it like that? Yes. I have it recorded in probably a month or so. So as soon as I get back to recording and doing things, because I've been now focusing back on the blogging. So as soon as I get back on the YouTube portion.
I always have the same question comes up a couple of times a year in a bunch of different creator groups I'm in. And we always ask the question, is blogging dead? Blogging isn't dead, but it's morphed. And I found that most people, what they'll do is they blog, but they also do a small video to go with it, because it's sad, but I don't think a lot of people are reading the way they should,
And this is from the man who told me to blog.
What year was that, though? Oh, wait. I have a question for you. I'm waiting for him to type it out.
Okay. But yes, that was 2014, 6 years ago. You told me to blog. Yeah.
Go ahead.
But what I'm trying to do, because I am trying to get brand partnerships and things of that nature, it does help to have a blog as well for that reason.
What do you think about creating a group for single parents? There are single parents out here too. I forgot where you are. Jay Shine, let us know. And he says single fathers. I think it would be awkward for a woman to create a group for single fathers, although her husband may.
He could. I mean, I don't see why Jay Shine wouldn't create a group for single fathers, take it upon himself that, you can always start a group.
Hey,
anybody
run with it,
anybody can start a group. And my husband is very introverted, so he doesn't, he's nothing like me. I agree. So did you want me to read that one out loud too?
Yeah.
You still need to have a blog because you don't own YouTube or any other social media channels.
Well said.
which is totally true, depending on what site your blog is on. Because if you're on certain parts of WordPress, then they can take it off too. Hey,
Hey, this is one of my polyglot friends from Melanated Multilinguals on Facebook. So for the people who are learning or speak more than one language, quick question: how are your children's language skills shaping up?
as far as Arabic and French, what they learned overseas?
Any language.
So the twins, so we have twins now. They're mixed, so they're Filipino and Black. So they use Duolingo to try to learn some of their mother's language. So we support that. The other kids, they also use Duolingo to learn Spanish. Like at one point during this whole quarantine, we had somebody in here speaking Spanish. We had Tagalog. We had, I think my daughter was learning Dutch. So they've been just learning all kinds of languages during all of this free time. As far as being just fluent at anything, then no, but they are learning a little bit here and there.
What I will do is I'm also going to put a link up for a great group called Melanated Multilinguals. And I want everybody, if you get the opportunity, if you're a person who's with the different language bit, so Melanated Multilinguals on Facebook is an excellent group. Now, what I'm also going to say is that I don't know if I've told you, but I'm a big advocate of Pimsleur and the Pimsleur method. I have the Pimsleur course if you and your family are really serious. I don't know. Are you familiar with Pimsleur?
No.
Pimsleur is a method where they focus 100% on speaking. To be clear, there is no writing, there is no reading. It is 100% 30-minute lessons for 30 days for each section. For example, Portuguese has 5 sections, so that's 5 months. And it is really, really good. It became famous among a lot of the expat community because if you know in a couple of months you're going to another country, I know people, and this is their claim to fame. For example, Brazil had 5 levels, but they always promised that if you finish the first 3 levels by doing a half an hour a day, and that's actually a lie because what you do is you do 1 lesson, but you do it twice to really get it. If you do 1 lesson a day, do it for 90 days consistently, I was shocked at how much you can learn. And they say that there are rules to it. You got to speak out loud. You can't just do it in your head. I'll put a link into this one, In Brazil, Hustling Portuguese Backwards. But it's one of those language learning apps that has a huge following. I even did a video on it because it works. Now, I say that to say this. If you and your team can benefit from that app, I can find a way to get it to you. All I ask is that you use it because it really does work. I always have my friends who have children. What I told them is have everybody do the lesson the first time separately, and then everybody come together in the afternoon or the evening to do it together.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Because it really is one of those things that works. I mean, I was shocked that just after that first 30-day section, the level of conversation you can have. But again, the way they do that is that they tell you right off the bat, we might have a small component where you can read something, but it's not about reading at all. It is not about writing at all. It is about having you in a situation where if you do 3 months, you should be able to get off the bus or airplane and have at the very least what we like to call a coffee level conversation with somebody, just having a regular, simple. And she learns life. She has a Instagram where she features people who are bilingual and multilingual as well. So I want everybody to join that group. So I guess that's where we're going to wrap it up. Do you have any last words?
No, I always enjoy our conversations. Always.
So this is what we'll do. We will log off with these guys. You and I will hang around out back to catch up for a few things. Everybody, make sure you click the subscribe button. If you're on Facebook, make sure you go to the YouTube link and join there as well. And thank you to everyone. So having said that, I hope everybody is